Hi everyone, my name is Tammy Joya and I'm an advocate for children with special needs, and I've been an advocate now for approximately 25 years. I started with my son who was ADHD and realized that there are children who aren't getting any of the services, and if what I went through is any indication of what other parents are going through with children who had even more complex disabilities than mine, they're going to need some help. So I started advocating back in 1995, and so here I am today. So what I found is that a lot of parents don't know, what goes in an IEP, how do you even get to an IEP. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to teach you guys how to go from not having an IEP to getting an IEP. And along the way, what you're going to learn is, even if your kid is on an IEP, you're going to learn what actually goes into an IEP and where does that information come from. How do you get that information? We're going to talk about all of that stuff in this video. So I hope you stay tuned, and I hope you come along for the ride so that you can learn how to write a better IEP for your kid in 2022-2023 school year. So stay tuned and let's get together on this. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing you guys need to know is the law. What am I talking about when I say the law? Okay, so let's say you guys, you request an evaluation. So the first thing you want to know is, so you make a request to the school district. What does that mean? Understand this. Everything you guys ask the school district to do, they have to respond. They have to respond in a certain way by a certain amount of time, okay? They have to put things in writing all the time. You make a request, they respond, that response has to be in writing. So let's look at this. The first thing we're going to look at over here is what's called prior written notice, okay? So let's look at what prior written notice says. Prior written notice says that if you make a request or the district proposes to initiate an activity, such as an evaluation, there's certain things that they have to do. For instance, if here it is right here, this right here is on everything, and you'll find out later how many times this one sentence proposes to initiate or change the identification, the evaluation, or educational placement of the child, or the provision of FAPE. Those four things are everything. That's what goes in if you're filing a complaint. That you have to cite one of those things, okay? That's what goes in if you're filing for due process. That's what has to go in, okay? So anytime in special ed law, if all else fails, just say they denied you FAPE. That's all you have to say. FAPE covers everything. Free and appropriate public education covers everything. So let's just do that. So now let's say you requested an evaluation. So this says that a written notice that meets the requirement of this section must be given to the parents of a child with a disability a reasonable time before the public agency proposes or initiates to change something or refuses to initiate or change something, okay? So now the notice can't just be an email, okay, guys? Can't just be an email, well, no, we don't feel like it today, and the word feelings? No. The word feelings doesn't come into play anywhere in 307 pages of the idea. So as soon as the district uses the word feelings, they lost. There's no such thing as feelings in the idea. Okay, here's what we believe in, people. Facts, okay, laws, okay, and evidence. Other than that, everything goes bye-bye. Everything goes bye-bye, okay? Do you see what does it say? There's nothing in this law that talks about the district's feelings. Nobody cares. Okay? So the content of the notice has to include all 7 of these things. A description of the action proposed, an explanation of why, a description of each evaluation procedure or assessment or record or something they use to come to this decision. A statement that the parents of a child with a disability has protections, like they have to tell you, so that you can dispute it if you want to with their decision. You have a right to dispute everything they say. Everything. Okay? And we're going to go in because there's something right here that we need to go into that has to do with an initial evaluation. Okay? An initial evaluation request. Okay? So, and another thing is the sources where parents can contact somebody to help them understand these regulations, and a description of other options the team considered before making their decision to either propose to initiate the change, identification, evaluation, or educational placement, or the provision of FAPE, or to refuse to change all of that, okay? So that's what we have to look at first. So so when you ask them for something, they have to put it in writing. I'm going to tell you this every time I do a video. Putting it in writing is the most important thing you want. And if they don't put it in writing, you put it in writing, okay? You can send them an email and say, hey, I asked for this and I haven't gotten a response. What's up with that? So you let them know, okay? So that's the first thing you're going to do. Okay, so the other thing that I have to tell you guys is that I've noticed that there's a lot of parents, speak a different language, and what they don't like to tell you, for those of you who do speak another language, is that they have to put everything so that you understand it, okay? And this is notice in understandable language. It's not just written in understandable language to the general public. It's also provided language in the native language of the parent or other mode of communication, okay? They have to do that too. If the native language or other mode of communication of the parent is not written language, the public agency must take steps to ensure that the notice is translated orally or by other means to the parent in his or her native language or other mode of communication, that the parent understands the content of the notice, and that there is written evidence that the requirements in the paragraphs, yada, 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 have been met, okay? So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that too. A lot of times you guys are getting stuff if you don't speak the language or you're not 100% understanding what's going on. Even if you do speak English and it's written in English, you still may not understand it. You may have a disability yourself. You may have language issues, that's preventing you from understanding what that is. And so they have to take all kinds of steps to make sure that you guys understand what time it is and what's going on with what they're proposing to do or what your request asked of them, okay, and what their response is. Okay, so we've talked about the notice. That's the law part, okay, guys? That's what I'm talking about. So you have rights. You ask for something. You ask for them to test your kid, okay? And that's what that notice thing was all about. If you request something, then they have to respond, and when they respond, they have to put it in writing. So now you know what you have to do for that piece. Now, there's a whole nother piece that has to do with, there's a whole nother law that has to do with the actual contents of what the evaluations are all about. So we're going to talk about that right now, and so that you can get a better understanding of what it means when you ask for an evaluation and what it doesn't mean, okay? Because they're gray. So we have to fix this, okay? Okay, so the next part is the evaluation procedures, okay? So it doesn't matter if your kid if this is the first time you're requesting an initial evaluation or it's a reevaluation. It is the same procedures that must be implemented every single time they evaluate your kid, okay? These are the evaluation procedures, all right? And this is where they're found. Okay. Here are the evaluation procedures. Okay, now, the evaluation procedures contain a lot of information, and I know this is a pain, but you have to know this in order to understand what your rights are, because if they misstep or they if they don't do it right, it's a major violation, because if they don't evaluate your kid right, it's a denial of FAPE. Because if they miss something, then that means that your kid didn't get that service that your kid could have got. Okay, so see right here, it says the conduct of the evaluation. Okay, in conducting the evaluation, the public agency must. They have to use a variety of tools and strategies to gather functional, developmental, academic, information about the child, including information provided by the parent that may assist in determining, and this is the key, whether the child is a child with a disability under 300.8, which is the definition of a disability. I'll show you that in a minute. And the content of the child's IEP, including information related to enabling the child to be involved in and progress in the general education curriculum. You see, guys, the whole idea is that your child is at some point in time mainstreamed into the general population. That was the purpose of IDEA. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but a lot of times it can. Okay? But you also, in schools, sometimes just rip away things and say, oh, they're all done. For the record, so we're right off the record real quick. In order to get services for your kid, they have to evaluate. In order for the school district to take away those services, they must evaluate your kid. Okay? Because the same way he got him is the same way they can take it away. And they can only take it away after they get your consent to evaluate him again. And if they're telling you they want to evaluate to see if to take away your kid's service, guess what you're not going to do? You're not giving them consent to do that. You make them put that in writing. That the reason why they want consent from you to evaluate is to remove services. That means they predetermined what's about to happen to your kid. That's a predetermination. The answer is no. No. Okay? So they can't use a single measurement. All right? Here's the most important part right here. They have to use technically sound instruments that may assess the relative contribution of cognitive and behavioral factors in addition to physical and developmental factors. This is very serious, okay? This isn't some silly little teacher in the classroom, no offense, giving your kid a math test, okay? Or inventing a test to prove that your kid can do the work. She can't invent a test. She can't invent a test. The test has to be technically sound. And we're going to talk about exactly what a technically sound instrument is. And you're going to be surprised, a lot of you, when you see what's in these assessments, okay, that they don't want to tell you about. But we're going to get into your rights, okay, in a minute. Other evaluation procedures, assessments, and other evaluation materials used to assess the child under this part are selected and administered so as not to be discriminatory on a racial or cultural basis. Yep, because a technically sound instrument addresses that piece. Just saying. Are provided and administered in the child's native language or other mode of communication and in the form of the most likely to yield accurate information on what the child knows and what the child can do academically. This is the purpose of an evaluation. These are the things that the information from the evaluation will translate into, or translate into the IEP, okay? Are used for the purposes for which the assessments or measures are valid and reliable, okay? Which means a teacher or some doofus at the school can't make up an assessment. Like, for instance, in one of my cases a few years ago, a school district in New York gave a recess monitor a checklist to do a PT eval on the kid. It wasn't valid or reliable. It was, and the person that got it didn't even have any credentials to collect this data. All she did was check off, can he climb the monkey bars? Yes. Can he climb the swing? Yes. Can he use the swing? Yes. That's all he did. Then they had another one where, can he carry his tray in the cafeteria to his table? That's not a PT. It's not an OT eval. An OT and a PT eval are way more detailed than that. They delve more into movement. Okay, so you have to be careful with these people because they will try to pass off some no-name thing that they made up in the school district talking about, yes, this is what we use all the time. I don't care what you use all the time. That's not what the law says you're supposed to do. Okay, how are you measuring it? That's the first thing. What it says here, you are used for the purposes for which the assessments or measures are valid and reliable. So if a school district made it up, how are they going to prove that their assessment is valid and reliable? because there's a whole bunch of stuff that makes it valid and reliable, and it's not some teacher saying it is. Nobody cares about the teacher, okay? They're called psychometrics, and there's a whole bunch of things that go into psychometrics. People get paid a lot of money to develop technically sound instruments. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, but this is what it looks like, okay? Are administered by trained and knowledgeable personnel. So trained and knowledgeable is a clear indicator that the evaluations that they're supposed to administer to your kid are not some math test that the teacher drew up, or some speech and language pathologist cherry picked some things that she knows your kid can do, and created a. Yeah, they can't do none of that. They can't do none of that. Okay. And it says here, assessments and other evaluations are those tailored to assess specific areas of education. Assessments are selected and administered so as to best ensure that if the assessment is administered to a child with impaired sensory, and it lists all of this stuff in here. Okay? The child is assessed in, here's my favorite, all areas of suspected disability. Okay? Including, if appropriate, health and vision and social and emotional, general intelligence. We're going to talk about all of this. Academic performance, communicative status, and motor disabilities. That's OTPT. That's the WISC-5. That's the Wyatt 3. Okay? That's the BASC. This is the BASC. All of these things they're listing here have their own special assessments. And there's a lot of them. It's not just the ones I just cited. Assessments of children who transfer from one public agency to another in the same. So this is all about kids when they transfer. Okay. So this is what they have to do. They have to make sure that the evaluations that they're using on your kid meet this criteria. If they don't, the evaluations are no good, and they're easily disproven that they're horse poo-poo. Okay? Okay, guys, so I'm going to try to keep it short, and it's only about 20 minutes, and I think that's long enough given the amount of information that I just gave you. So I'm going to try to release these on a regular basis. I'm getting the hang of it now, so it looks like I can get about 2 or 3 of them out a week, I'm hoping. Keep your fingers crossed. But if this video is going to build on each other, okay? So the next one that's going to come up, we're still going to talk about some evaluations and actually the law, and then we're actually going to delve into the IEP components. Now there's regulations regarding the components of an IEP, and so we're going to delve into that regulation and those laws, and then finally there'll be how we take the evaluations, the laws, and the components of the IEP to develop your kid's IEP. So this should be very interesting. I hope you guys are getting it, and I hope you need, this helps you out a little bit. So if you could possibly, please subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and please, if you have any questions about any of the stuff that I just put out there, just let me know, because there's lots of information that I can send you. For instance, the page that we were just on, I can actually put that on my website so you guys can see it. Okay, I'm going to turn it into a PDF file so you can just download it and get it from my website. That's go to that website. There's lots of things on there that you guys can get and you can use, and most of them are all free. So check out my website, please. Again, you have no idea how much helping me increase my views and increase my subscribers will help me to help you and keep this channel going. I'm trying to give you guys as much information as I can, and I need your help to do that. The more subscribers I have, the more notifications I have, the more likes and the more comments I have will increase my ability to keep going with you guys. Okay, so thank you for coming. I hope this worked for you. I will see you soon. Thank you, and have a great night.